Welcome back to another edition of the Friday Show presented by Monmouth Park. I'm Ray Paulick here with news editor Chelsea Hackbarth and a special guest, John Englehardt, who's going to talk to us in a few minutes about the Ageless Perry Ouzts, the jockey who rode his 52,000th race the other day. Back to the three-day schedule, Monmouth Park, Twilight card on Friday. The Saturday-Sunday cards get off at 12:15. Twilight is 5 o'clock on Friday. The win early pick 5, 50-cent bet on weekends. It's the first pick 5 in the country. Be sure to try that. So Perry Ouzts, I looked up, is 67 years old and still riding horses. I'm 67 years old and I'm afraid to get on a bicycle. John, you've been following Perry Ouzts' career probably since you were a young fella.
Yes.
1973 is when he started, and he's still ticking. He's like the ever-ready battery.
He's unbelievable. I mean, put it in perspective. All right, 52,000. He's performed this feat riding a thoroughbred horse 52,000 times. Besides blinking and breathing, what have you done in your life 52,000 times, and how many of them were death-defying? It's awesome what this guy has done. And he's 67 and he gets up. And here's the thing about Perry is he's not like one of these guys that just shows up and rides. He's there at daybreak every morning for the workouts. He takes one day off a week, but he's there. How many jocks go out and work horses, gallop horses? The guy's phenomenal. So I don't know how many numbers you could add to the 52,000 for horseback rides he's had. It's phenomenal.
John, I don't know how many of those 52,000 you've actually seen live.
Too many.
You worked at River Downs for many years. Now Belterra, where he's riding. He, by the way, he rode 3 winners the other day when he hit that 52,000 number. Chelsea, what if, I figured it out. 52,000 is how many meals a 47-year-old will have eaten in his lifetime if he eats 3 meals a day. 52,000 meals. I
did the math just for you, Ray. I've only been alive 11,315 days. So
I'm sorry I missed your 11,000th birthday.
I actually got started on the racetrack at Belterra Park, and Perry would come up from Turfway in the winters, and he would work horses for us. We had a really nice 2-year-old in the barn that Perry never rode in a race, but he'd be there every time the horse worked, and he would tell us what a nice horse it was. And even when we moved to what was then River Downs, is now Belterra, he would still come and work the horse for us every week. Every week he went out, and then the horse, 1 second out, I think, at Churchill. So he's the nicest guy on the backstretch, probably. Just quiet, just shows up, does his job. I mean, none of the jockeys are like that besides Perry.
John, there's a few other jockeys like Perry. Perry has pretty much stayed on that circuit his entire career, I think. I think of Russell Bayes, the all-time winningest jockey. Perry will never catch him in terms of mounts, I don't think, or wins. But Russell was pretty much in Northern California his entire career, which is not the A circuit. Perry stayed in the Ohio circuit his entire career. He never has won a graded stakes race. Did he ever go through periods where he says, I should try Kentucky circuit, try the Illinois circuit, or go down to Oaklawn?
Well, one of the highest compliments he gets is from another guy that was cutting his teeth at River Downs in those early days. His name is Ken McPeak. And Kenny watched him ride for many years when he was coming up. Kenny had his first winter there. And he said, Perry could have gone to Chicago. He could have gone to Gulfstream, pick up, and he probably would have been in the top 5 riders at any venue he picked. He's just that good, and horses tend to run for him. He said, but, he chose to stay here, and I respect that. I mean, he got married. He had his children here. The Midwest is a great place to live, in this way. When he does pick up the rare mount at Keeneland. During the winter, he's got Turfway when he wants to. He's got, for so many years, River Downs during the summer where he won 31 titles. And then he had Beulah Park, Chelsea, as you know, during those really tough days, at Beulah Park where you could run in 6 inches of fudge cake, on the bottom. So it was a personal choice he made to stay near his family, to stay near his home. And he had a good circuit. And hey, when you're at the leading rider, just about any place you go, he got a pretty good living.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite stories about Perry is the day at I guess it was still River then, when he wrecked his motorcycle on the way home from training horses and then came back and won the first 2 races on the card.
It's phenomenal. He's easy to spot both in the morning and the afternoon. He always wears a helmet with a pom-pom, and he has his own helmet covers to coordinate with every owner's silks. But in the morning, he's the man in black. He wears black vest, black helmet with a leather cover, black chaps. Luckily, and he loves to ride his motorcycle. So he goes to and from Hebron, Kentucky to Cincinnati area, but he had his leather chaps on. So he's coming up off the exit after work in the morning workouts. He'd go home, have his half a sandwich lunch or whatever it is, and come back to the track. So he's coming up 65 miles an hour. Car comes over, wipes him out. Luckily, so he slides across 2 lanes of traffic, doesn't get run over, looks down, gets up, dusts himself off. His motorcycle's totaled. First thing he does is call his agent and say, hey, will you give me a ride home so I can take a shower and give me a ride back because I got early mounts? Are you kidding? And then he goes out and wins both ends of the daily double. Are you kidding me? I mean, just add to the story, the list of things that this guy's accomplished. I mean, anybody these days and age would have taken a couple of days off to make sure that it didn't have any bruises on their arm. Not Scoot and Boot. He's something else.
Well, we all marvel at the fact that he's 67 and still doing this. But in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, are the other jockeys out there kind of protecting him, not putting him in tight places? I remember watching Gordie Howe play hockey when he was I don't know if he was in his 50s, but I mean, he was old. And there was an unwritten no check rule against Gordie Howe. Nobody was to lay a glove or a hip check on Gordie Howe. The jockeys, do they kind of look out for him on the racetrack?
Ray, if they are, I've never seen it. A lot of these jocks are coming from different countries where sometimes rough riding's a part of your training, as you come up to shut the hole off or to go through where there's not a hole. I've never seen Perry do anybody do favors for Perry. And also, one thing I've noticed, there have been times where he's been cut off and almost dropped. He never claims foul. He just goes about his work and he goes back. Now, on the rare occasion, if Perry claims against you, you can bet your butt you did something wrong, because they're few and far between. So to answer your question, no, I don't see anybody protecting him. And the whole thing is you don't have to, because you're always looking at his heels. His cousin, who he loved, he grew up in Riverdale, Arkansas, with Early Fires, who's in the Hall of Fame, and it was known as a great gate rider. Well, I don't know what they taught these guys out at Riverdale, but the reason they call him Scoot and Boot as one of his nicknames is he'd come out of that gate and he'd be scooting with his arms and booting with his heels. Boom. He can get a horse to the lead as fast as his cousin Early Fires. And so that's what he's best known for, is if you want your horse to stay out of trouble and, you've got a speed horse, Perry's the man to put on. And I've never seen anybody do him any favors, age or not.
Put another way, when should he hang up his tack, do you think? Because 67 he can get Social Security right now.
And throughout his career, I've tracked him. I had fun going through photos just to get the cobwebs out last night. And, I was there for 3,000, 5,000, these different watershed moments. And of course, the last question will always be, well, so Perry, you've achieved this, number of wins, number of mounts. any plans for retirement? And you'll hear it at the end of Ironman Perry Ouzts. John, I'm going to ride this train till they throw me off.
Well,
so he has no plans, right?
He's sitting on 7,200 wins for his career, numbers that a lot of jockeys in the Hall of Fame have, but he's never really been considered seriously, I don't think, for the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's been on the ballot, which means the nominating committee was considered it, but they voted not to put him on the ballot. What thoughts do you guys have about someone like Perry Ouzts with all these races won, longevity, but no big horses, no big graded stakes wins? Where does a guy like this fit in terms of the Hall of Fame?
Chelsea, I'd like to hear your input.
Well, I do think that there's a place for a rider like Perry, but maybe not in the Racing Hall of Fame. Certainly in the River Downs Belterra Hall of Fame, in the Ohio Racing Hall of Fame. But in terms of the National Hall of Fame, I do think that's restricted to riders that have ridden in the biggest races all over the country, all over the world. And I have to tell you, it breaks my heart to say that because I love Perry and I love what he's accomplished and what he's been able to do for so long. But I don't know that puts him in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm kind of a sit back, big picture look at history, and what Perry will tell you is he's like, yeah, John, don't forget there's only 5 guys that have ridden more winners, okay, in the history of the game. He's like, yeah, but those guys, and I'm gonna rip off their names. He goes, they were driving Cadillacs. He's like, I've been driving Volkswagen with 3 wheels all these years. I've really got to work for my wins. But he'll tell you, he says, don't care if it's stakes race, don't care if it's $5,000 claimer. I just love winning races. And that's the biggest thrill in his life. He doesn't have an exorbitant lifestyle. He goes to work, he comes home. I mean, you can set your clock by him. And the thing is, he's worked just as hard, maybe harder in that statement than a lot of these jockeys that just had to, hold on to a grade 1 stakes winner and go around in a circle. You watch Perry, man, and he has worked for every one of those over 7,100 wins. And, guys like him, Dave Gall, there almost should be a blue collar workers section of that,
blue collar Hall of Fame.
Trainers, like Baird and things like that. They're known, like you said, Ohio, but there should be some kind of national recognition for hard work and, in his case, longevity.
I don't disagree with you at all on that. I think the Blue Collar Hall of Fame is a fabulous idea. If you can get the funding for it, we're right behind you.
Well, Russell Bays was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He served almost his entire career in Northern California. I think he only had 2 grade 1 wins in his career. He had some other graded stakes wins, but of course he's got the all-time win record, which I think without the grade 1s, I'm not sure that would have got him in the Hall of Fame or not. But there's Mario Pino. You mentioned Dave Gall, Larry Snyder, the late Larry Snyder, had a lot of wins that maybe deserve some consideration as well. So you have no inkling as to when Perry's going to hang him up?
No, because he won't give you one. I don't think he wants anybody he don't want to have to look over his shoulder saying, darn it, I said I was going to make, 53,000 mounts and it doesn't look like I'm going to get there. Yeah. I think as long as he can ride and he's got trainers, and he's had many loyal trainers that have helped him support him, he's going to continue to ride. I think Perry's honest enough with himself, and he knows about his age. He knows about, literally, if you looked at his medical records, you could pave a sidewalk with it. He's broken about every bone in his body. And so he's not a dumb guy. I think if he feels like something's wrong or he just doesn't have that energy, that'll be the number. I just hope he goes out a winner.
Another older jockey who's, he's nowhere near Perry's age, but Mike Smith is is a physical fitness nut. He takes really good care of himself. He works out constantly. What can you tell us? What does Perry do besides ride horses and ride a motorcycle to stay fit?
Nothing. He has a very strict diet. Luckily, he's a small frame guy, but he pretty much over all these years have had the same breakfast, the same lunch. He doesn't eat much in the jocks room, and after the last race, he goes out and gets a bag of popcorn. And that's the only diet I know about. And if you ask him, he'll tell you. So his wife doesn't have to worry about preparing lunch for him. It's only a half a sandwich every day. Yeah. And don't forget, Ray, you go on out and work 5 horses every morning, you're going to stay pretty fit.
Right.
Plus, he's cleaning stalls and for his wife, probably walking some hots, feeding horses in the afternoons.
Yes, a lot of people don't know that. When he's done, and you'll see it if you go to Ironman Perry Ouzts, that when he's done with his work on the track, while his wife Tony, is a groom and kind of an assistant trainer for trainers on the backstretch, and he jumps off his horse and gets right in there and will walk hots, will help wrap ankles, will help bathe horses because he wants Tony to get done so they can go back home together. And so yeah, he stays fit doing that. If you've mucked a couple stalls, you get a workout.
For sure.
Well, we know he's the Iron Man. We know he's a legend, especially in the Cincinnati and Ohio area. John Englehardt, thanks for coming on. The host of Winning Ponies. You've done a lot in your career. We really appreciate it. I know you've chronicled much of Perry's career there in Cincinnati. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back after the Woodbine Star of the Week.
Inside the 3/8 they run in the Connaught Cup, and Silent Poet coming back to join Chuck Willis. A.B.'s Flatters right there. Escaminton on the outside as they turn from Olympic Runner. Down the centre, Proven Strategies from Gray's Fable and Tappet to win. And going up is Chuck Willis. Chuck Willis and Silent Poet tackled by A.B.'s Flatter on the outside. Proven Strategies running on as A.B.'s Flatter's bound to the front. It's A.B.'s Flatter getting away from the opposition. Olympic Runner coming into the picture. It's A.B.'s Flatter 2 in front. Olympic Runner to second. A.B.'s Flatter being chased home by Olympic Runner in the Connaught Cup. A.B.'s Flatter hanging on. A.B.'s Flatter the winner. Along neck. Second placing Olympic Runner. 3 to Proven Strategies third. Then Gray's Fable followed by Silent Poet, Chuck Willis, Escaminton. And Tappet to win was last the entire trip.
A.B.'s Flatter, a 5-year-old full horse by Flatter. That was a career best Beyer speed figure, I think, of 97, Chelsea. He's after 8 straight losses, he's won 2 in a row now, and looks like he can handle any surface.
It's also his second graded stakes win lifetime and his first since 2019. That was a heck of a run. He was full of runs, stuck behind horses, got out, managed to hold on. Impressive.
Yeah, and Josie Carroll now 12 for 45 at Woodbine this meeting, 27%. She's flirted with 20% a few times for the whole year. She's having a good year, and we've said this before. You give her a good horse, and she can get results.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's next for A.B.'s Flatter, but as I said, horse is a graded stakes winner on turf. It has won on the Tapeta surface up there, and only dirt start was a second in the Prince of Wales, the second leg of the Canadian Triple Crown a few years ago. That's going to do it, Chelsea. Thanks for joining me. Joe is off this week. I don't know if he'll be back next week. He's having a little vacation, which is nice. Thanks for joining us for the Friday show. Thanks to Woodbine for their support, and Monmouth Park. Friday, Saturday, Sunday racing, Twilight's Friday, and 12:15 first post on Saturday and Sunday. Play that win early, pick 5. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.